There it is. There's your picture. Hero was digging for his favourite food, which was licorice roots, when the news of the princess's kidnap first came to him. He remembered the moment well. At the time, he'd had a stick held in his long, horsey teeth, and he was jabbing at the ground grumpily and mumbling around the stick as he did so. This is jab, ridiculous, jab. What sort of jab? Unicorn gets himself jab, dehorned jab. Okay, you get the point. He was jabbing and muttering. What he was saying between the jabs at the ground was, this is ridiculous. What sort of a unicorn gets himself dehorned by sleeping as deeply as a newborn foal instead of watching out for himself? Digging for licorice root was not easy without his beautiful pearly horn, and Hero found himself angry all over again. And what sort of low-down, evil so-and-so takes a sleeping unicorn's horn anyway, he went on, mumbling angrily as he jabbed his stick into the ground. The sort of low-down, evil so-and-so who would also snatch a sleeping princess, came a growly sort of voice from the woods. And then a beautiful grey wolf leapt from the undergrowth and posed handsomely where Hero could get the best view of him. Stop showing off, Neville, and get over here and help me dig up some licorice root. Hero dropped his stick to say somewhat rudely. Best friends are allowed to be a bit rude when they're having a bad day, so Neville the wolf didn't let his feelings be hurt by Hero's grumps. I know you love me, Hero, he said. No need to be so romantic. Romantic schmomantic, Hero mumbled, stick back to jabbing at the earth, lips bared back from his long yellowish horsey teeth, the better to grip it. You need to start chewing some bones to clean those teeth of yours, Neville said as he came to lend his big paws to Hero's digging efforts. Hero just snorted. He dropped his stick again and grabbed for some root when Neville's paws exposed it for him. He crunched the root up, chewed happily and swallowed. Ah, beautiful sweet licorice root. He felt better already. I'd no sooner chew a bone than you'd eat a chunk of licorice root, Hero said. Now pass me that big bit of root that you just dug up and tell me what you mean about snatched princesses. Neville obligingly tossed Hero some more licorice root and sat on his fluffy bottom to tell his story, tail tucked about his toes to keep them warm. It was spring, but it didn't feel very warm yet in the Kingdom of Power. The snow had only just melted. I just came from the castle, he began, where you've been toasting yourself and keeping warm these long winter months, never thinking of your poor cold friend in the woods, Hero interrupted. Wow, you really are grumpy, aren't you? Neville said calmly. That horn of yours must have been the source of all your good moods as well as your magic. Anyway, as I was saying, Helen, crown princess of power, was gone from her bed this morning, and the kidnapper left a note on her pillow asking for all of the gold in the kingdom for her return. I mean, we both know she's more than a match for any kidnapper, but I figured that if we found her and got her back, she might get the king to help you find your horn as a reward. Hero might be hornless and grumpy, but he could see some hope in this plan. If anyone could help him, it would be Princess Helen's influence with Queen Annette and King Peter. They'd gone to school together in the same class, and Helen on a mission was a very scary thing indeed. Even her powerful parents, the rulers of this land, would be very likely to do as she asked, especially if she'd just been returned safely to them. What do you think? Neville asked. It has possibilities, Hero said, chewing licorice root thoughtfully. Who has kidnapped Princess Helen? That is kind of a sticky point, Neville admitted, putting his wolfy ears flat. He knew Hero wasn't going to like this bit. The kidnapper is, well, it's Mean-as Meanie, the minotaur. Hero spat out his piece of licorice root. His eyes bugged and his tail went straight out at the back. Mean-as? That rotten bullying stinker? I should have guessed it. He was a pig at school and he's still a pig. That's a bit rough on our old schoolmate Grunter Pinky, but sure, I get your feelings on the topic, Neville said. Are you game to go tackle him to get our princess back? Game? I'm game, Hero said, hopping on the spot with anger. I'm so game I want to go right now. Neville, who like all dog kind was always keen for a walk, was all for the adventure, and so the two friends cantered off towards the home of Mean-as the Minotaur. It wasn't far, but it was a hard journey, because it was up and up into the jagged mountains that stood over the lands of power. The Frowners, they were called. Mean-as lived in a cave high up in those mountains, and every day as a little baby minotaur he had come down to the kingdom's school to torment his classmates. He was supposed to be learning, but mostly what he did was torment. Hero, a year younger than Mean-as, all pretty and pearly and shiny, had been a special target. He'd never forgiven the Minotaur for those years, and anyway, Minas hadn't improved with age. He had gone on to a career of catching people who tried to journey over the mountains and keeping them hostage until their families paid money to get them back. He'd only got away with it because he wasn't inside the kingdom and he'd not have to follow the rules of the good Queen Annette. And now he had stolen the beloved princess of the kingdom. Hero wasn't standing for that, horn or no horn. Minas's mum must have been a real cow, Neville said chattily as they trotted together high up the mountain pass that led to Minas's rocky home. And his father must have had very bad eyesight, Hero said, finishing the joke they'd been telling each other ever since they were a foal and a cub. Minas was a very odd creature, even in a land where strange creatures were accepted. He had the head of a bull and the body of a very muscled human. The other joke they'd always told that it was that just as well he hadn't ended up with the head of a human stuck on the neck of a bull. Now that really would have been weird looking. At any rate, his mama and daddy, however they looked, never taught him any manners, Hero panted as his strong horsey hindquarters thrust him up an extra steep bit of path. I heard he ate them, Neville said cheerfully. He wasn't puffed at all, which Hero found particularly annoying. The thought of Minas eating humans, or cows for that matter, didn't make Hero feel very good in the tummy, being an eater of grass, so he ignored Neville's words and instead pushed even harder up the hill. Ahead, he could see a dark and threatening hole in the mountainside. It was Minas's home, he knew. They climbed right up to the hole and looked down into its midnight depths. Hero was starting to wonder if it might have been better to plan this rescue a bit more, like by thinking to bring a torch ready to light or a magical candle or something. It's really dark in there, he said, trying to sound brave and failing utterly. I can see in the dark, Neville said smugly. I can't, Hero said. What about your glowy thing you do? You know, Neville said. I have to be happy to do that, Hero grumped. So imagine you've already rescued the princess and the king is so happy that he helped you get your horn back and the birds are singing and the sun is shining and you have a big piece of licorice root in your gob and all is right in your world, Neville suggested. Hero tried it, and to his relief, as he thought happy thoughts, his pearly hide and glowing mane and tail began to glow brighter and brighter. I can rescue the princess, he told himself. I can rescue her and get my horn back and be the hero that my mama and daddy named me to be. He began to glow brightly, and with his mind full of dreams of his future success, he stepped first onto the deep dark path that led down into Minas's lair, with Neville right behind him. Down, down they went, and Hero had to work very hard at being happy to keep up his glow as the air got damper and colder and smellier. Big splashy lumps of something stinky were here and there along the path. Is that? Hero began. Neville, he of the sensitive wolfy nose, finished the sentence for him. Yep, minotaur poo. Well, that's just disgusting, Hero said, his pearly glow fading. He's behaving like an animal. You're going dark, Neville said. Go back to thinking about how you're going to get your horn back and not about poo. Hero concentrated hard on happy thoughts until his glow became bright again, and on they went, past the piles of minotaur poo and down, 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 until they came to level ground with tunnels going off in all directions. There was nothing to see to tell him which way to go, just a sandy floor and rock walls and poo. It's his maze, Neville said. Do you remember him bragging about how nobody ever escapes once they go in? He never counted on the nose that knows, though. He snuffed loudly just to show off. I can find our way out by following our trail backwards, just as easily as if it was a line of painted arrows. Can you trail Minas to the centre of the maze? Hero asked. If you can't, we'll just go round in circles and never find him, even if we can eventually get out again. Neville stamped about and sniffed and sat down on his tail, ears flat. No, he's been everywhere. I can't tell which way to go. Hero stomped one glowing foot thoughtfully and flicked his glowing tail. Shadows and lights on the walls of the maze danced spookily as he moved, but he tried to ignore that and keep thinking happy thoughts. Do you remember when we were little how Minas used to do that thing where he'd make you punch your own head with your hooves, or paws in your case, and over he'd ask, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? How could I forget? Neville growled. My ears haven't stopped ringing yet. What about it? Well, it's a crazy idea, Hero suggested thoughtfully, but you remember how we'd always do the same pattern? 2 left punches and a right punch, 2 lefts and a right, over and over. Yeah, my left ear still rings worse than my right, Neville agreed. So? What if 2 lefts and a right is the pattern for getting through the maze? Hero suggested. You know, he kind of had it in his mind all the time, so that's how he punched us. It was pretty weird when you think about it. He is pretty weird, Neville said. If you haven't noticed, he has a bull's head on a human body. You don't get much weirder than that. Yeah, okay, but is it worth a try? Sure, I can always get us back here if we get lost. Lead on, Hero the Hornless. Don't call me that, Hero said, ducking his head and heading for the left-hand tunnel entrance. Geez, with friends like you, who needs minotaurs? They went left again when the next tunnel opened up in that direction, and then the next time they went right, and then left twice, and so on. And while they didn't know they were going the right way, they didn't fall down a hole into an oubliette or find themselves back at the start, so they kept it up. And after a wearingly long journey, they found themselves walking out of a tunnel and into a vast open cavern. The cavern arched far above their heads, and sparkling stalactites hung from the ceiling, providing enough light that Hero felt he could finally stop thinking happy thoughts and begin to think angry ones. This was lucky, because what he saw made him feel very angry indeed. There ahead of them was a living space with couches, a dining table, a 4-poster bed and a fireplace, all just stuck in the middle of the giant echoing cavern, and everything was so encrusted with riches that the gold and jewels on every piece of furniture were sparkling so as to blind their dark adapted eyes. He's not exactly suffering down here, is he? Neville said quietly, snuffling his whaler forward, tail kept low, ears pricked to listen for the arrival of their nemesis. Nope, which makes you wonder why he bothers to kidnap princesses, Hero said, following Neville. His hooves made a dreadful clatter on the rock of the cavern, echoing across its vast space. Guess we won't be sneaking up on him, Hero said. It wasn't like he could tiptoe, or that it would do any good if he could. His toes were just as hard as the rest of his hooves. About time, came a girlish voice, and they both jumped a mile high, then trotted forward to see where the voice was coming from. It was the Princess of Power herself. She seemed to be kneeling on a fur rug, which was bucking up and down and making some sort of muffled roaring noise. Oh, hang on. No, that wasn't a fur rug. It was Minaz. Princess Helen had one of his beefy arms held behind his back and was putting all of her weight on him with both knees, but they could see she wasn't going to be able to hold the great bully for long. A little help would be nice, the princess yelled as she went up and down, her long, beautiful, reddy-bound hair flying about. She looked like she was riding a very naughty pony, one of those magical fairground rides they'd all enjoyed as little ones when the holidays came around. Hang on, I've got to get another page. Right. Hero and Neville stopped staring and galloped forward to help, but even with them both hanging on with their teeth to anything they could grab, they couldn't stop Minaz from bucking harder and harder until Helen's legs were thrown right up in the air, making her pretty princess dress fall over her head so she couldn't see. And then the huge minotaur was loose, and he charged away across the cavern, leaving his 3 supposed captors lying in a pile on the hard, rocky floor. "You guys are so dead," came his deep voice from somewhere in the tunnels that opened up all around the cavern. And that's the end of the story for today. So the other half will be tomorrow at 4:30. I hope you enjoyed it, Helen. See you tomorrow. Bye.